Monday. Or Monday Fun Day, one way.
Yes,
Whatever.
Sean Ryder, happy Mondays. Love him, absolutely. Anyway, that's me going off onto a tangent. Sorry.
Don't worry. Yep. Isn't it great? It's February. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
No longer January. I feel it's all going to be amazing now. Things are really going to change.
Bring on March.
Yeah, that's right. I've got my holiday gear on, actually.
Oh yeah.
Very impressive, darling.
Now we should mention Captain Tom. Let's mention Captain Tom. You know, bless him, and pray that he's fine. And you know, he couldn't have his vaccination because he had pneumonia. Yes. So that's why this has happened. But he'll be fine. He's a very strong man, and we wish him well. We all wish him well.
Oh gosh, yes.
Captain Tom.
Yes,
absolutely.
I have to say, I was supposed to have my vac on Saturday, and it was cancelled. And I thought, oh well, that's the end of me then. That'll be another 2 months. But I've got it booked. They phoned me yesterday to say it's booked for Wednesday.
Oh, great.
So I've got one on Wednesday, and the second one's already booked in, but not.
Oh, fantastic!
You know, yes, 12 weeks or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that must be really reassuring, darling.
It is. I mean, I know there's a lot of chat with people saying, I'm not having that in my arm. You know what I mean? I'm not having a vaccination like people do with kids with, you know, all the children's vaccinations. But I think we all have a duty now to end this pandemic and bring our world back. You know,
absolutely, darling.
We want our world back. We want it clean, and we want it safe. And and also they said that we are going to probably have to have these vaccinations maybe twice a year from now on in.
That's right.
That's right. Every year. That's fine. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on a cheerier note, I think that I'd like to talk about this lady that my sister-in-law phoned me. She lives in my brother and sister-in-law live in Tasmania. And she told me about this lady, Trudy Smith, and like Captain Tom, she's about 102, and she only started painting when she was 85. And she's now got an exhibition called Embracing Your Inner Weed. And weed,
the kind you smoke, darling, the kind you smoke?
No, I thought that straight away. But actually what it is she says that weeds grow anywhere, and she's always felt like an outsider because her parents were doctors, and she always felt like a weed. And she said now she's embracing that, and she's become a phenomenon at the 102. But isn't that amazing? And started at 85.
Well, there's hope for us then, isn't there? There's hope for us yet.
And I'll tell you something, weeds, no matter how you try and get rid of them, they climb through the cracks. I don't know what that means for us, climbing through cracks, but they're always there. So we always have hope. We'll get up through those cracks.
Exactly. That's
yes. What's the yellow weed that you put under your chin to see if you like buttercup?
Buttercup.
Yes. Buttercups can get through anything. So we're all for buttercup.
There we go.
Thank you. Oh, that's a lovely thought, isn't it, on a Monday afternoon?
It is. Now, darlings, I want to bring in our guest today, who is actress, presenter, director, producer, Nina Wadia OBE. Welcome to the nest.
Lovely girl. Hello,
Nina. It's so lovely to see you, darling. Welcome to our mad nest.
Since I saw you last, Nina, your hair has grown like crazy.
Yeah, that's because we can't go to any hairdressers.
No. I've just got this hair.
It's great.
Do you know, when I was younger, my sister's a hairdresser, so I was the one she experimented on. So I always had really, really short hair. So this is the first time it's ever been this long, and it's really like, oh, look at my hair.
Darling, I wanted to ask you all about, because we're pals anyway, but I wanted to ask you all about lockdown mother. How did that happen? Homeschooling hell. It is so funny on Instagram. Tell me, please, what's going on?
So lockdown mother happened because January kicked in, and the announcement was actually the announcement was made in December, but I kind of kept positive for a couple of weeks, and then there was one day we went for a walk on a Sunday where I take my kids into the woods. Don't ask me why. Just get all that angst out of them or whatever it is. And I was so miserable. And my husband is 6'2", I'm 5'2", and he had his camera and he went, look up. and I had this big woolen hat and I was really cold and miserable and the grumpiest face. And he said, see, this is what I see.
Get over it. Yeah.
I know, literally. So I was like, and I kept looking at this photo and it just made me laugh because I looked so ridiculous, like a real toddler throwing a fit because I was just so unhappy. And then I said to my son, like, I'd gone into his room. He was meant to be doing his homework. And I'd gone into his room and of course he was sneaking and, you know, playing video games. So I got really mad at him and I thought, do you know what? It might be quite funny to have a thing where I'm kind of like this really angry mom going around the house, or, you know, just, I don't know. I just needed to do something creative because I was so bored. So I asked my husband to kind of get the phone and I went to my son. I went, I'm going to come into your room. I need you to tell me to get out. And he goes, yeah, sure. So I came into the room pretending, you know, he was doing his homework. And I went, you're playing video games. You should be doing your homework. And instead of my son saying, get out of the room, Mum, he went off like this. And I was so shocked because I wasn't expecting him to do it. I went, oh, fine. And I walked out. And we played it over and over again. Of course, I yelled at him for swearing, but it really worked.
Funny. That's funny.
Comedy. So that was it. So she was born. And then I just thought, there's so many things that irritate me about what's going on right now. But what's funny is when, you know, when, like, I've always liked humor where there's a little bit of cruelty. So kind of like Blackadder style, you know, it's got to be a little bit mean to be funny. So I've decided that Lockdown Mother is someone who, you know, just, she lives in this household where everyone's just mean to her. She can't get it right for getting it wrong. You know, and occasionally she gets a chance to kind of be pissed off as well. Oh, am I allowed to say that? I don't know, but
yes, yeah. I've already said the other word, so you can say this.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Too late, Nina.
We'll do a bleep, darling.
Don't worry about it.
But isn't it wonderful how social media has given us this platform to be funny, to be creative? I mean, we're doing WonderBirds for almost a year because of it. And again, it's the same thing. It gives us a place to keep going. And you were talking about another social media platform. Please explain.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine, he's launching this platform called Pipped. And the idea behind Pipped is he's getting people from different sort of walks of life, from the sports world, from music world, from the acting world. And he asked me if I would kind of join him because he liked Lockdown Mother. I mean, I'll be honest, since doing Lockdown Mother, really like weirdest stuff. I've had people from YouTube get in touch, from TikTok get in touch to say, can you create a series or whatever? And I'm thinking, you know, I've tried for the years to get the bloody BBC to give me a job that way, but no.
And there you go. Yeah,
exactly. But then social media comes along and it's almost like they kind of treat you more like just because they like your talent. You don't have to, you know, you're not too old for them. You're not too, you know, kind of like you've got the experience, so they like that. They just want quality work.
Yeah. And so you don't have to prove anything, do you?
Absolutely. I mean,
you have
to be honest, we've all of us ladies have done enough proving in our lifetime.
Exactly.
But it feels like you get to a certain age and then they're kind of done with you. And, you know, it's you're sort of thrown away a bit. So I thought, well, if social media is a platform on which I can do it, I thought maybe I would take my friend up on doing Pipped and see how it works. So I'll hopefully be doing my first ever sort of podcast on it. And I'm going to call it An Actor's Life for Me. And I'm going to grab in different actors. So, you know, I'm going to grab each of you, by the way, in turn.
Yeah.
And then,
we're there.
Yeah. And it'll just be a way to just relax, enjoy and talk. And I'm also going to have, what's fun about this particular platform is you can't have any trolls on it. You can't have people writing nasty stuff to you.
Yes.
So good.
It's a very cheap subscription, but then you get to see who you want to see. You get to hear what they want to talk about. And what's nice about it is that I'll be able to do things like, you know, get someone who's on the other platform, like Mo Farah's joining. So I'll be able to get Mo in and we can have a really fun kind of, you know, face off on something, which you'd never get the two of us in the same space together.
No.
So
Fabulous.
it's just a nice
so
idea. And I thought it'd be good. I mean, I'll be honest, the whole social media thing, when it first happened, I did not want to be a part of it at all because I found it really odd to hold a phone, look at yourself and say things about that generation of,
No.
look at him, this is me. I found that really difficult. So the only way I like to be on social media is like you guys. If you're doing something creative, then you know, it's a way to get what you really want to talk about, which is why it's so lovely. Your show is just so, it's like just friends hanging out, and you'll talk about real stuff, you know, not absolute media rubbish. That's nice.
So I want to talk about your book, talking about being creative. I know it was probably 1999. Where have I come? 2019. But the fact that you written a book, but I know it's about diabetes, and I know about your son and everything. And I'd like you to explain what prompted you to write the book, and how it inspired you to write more.
Sure. Well, the book was not a planned thing. What happened was my son, we were coming back from a holiday in Thailand. It was in 2000. Well, I can't work backwards. 2017. And on the holiday, in the last couple of days, he was not quite feeling himself. You know, he was feeling a bit nauseous and things. And he'd had a virus a few months prior at the school, which had never really left him. So I thought, oh no, it's not the virus rearing its ugly head again, is it? Anyway, we get on a flight. We're coming back on the flight, and again, it starts this, you know, ridiculous kind of, oh, Mum, I'm going to throw up, and you know, and I'm not good like that, you know, just like I see someone retch, and I will retch back, and it was just this. In a way, it was almost this awful, hideous comedy routine where. At one point, I had to take him into the toilets because I was the only one who could fit into the toilets with my son to help him hold the bag. And it was him throwing up in the bag, me throwing up in the sink. And this went on for like 20 minutes. And I thought, this is one of the worst days of my life. It's horrible.
Oh, God.
We land and he just collapses. And we think, okay, this is something is really, really, really wrong. We get him out over the next week. You know, it's a question of doctors and this and that. And then finally, 1 week in, he collapses, but in a really scary way. His eyes roll in the back of his head. So my husband just picks him up, get him in the car, rush him to St. Mary's in Paddington. And they take one prick of his finger when we get there. And this junior doctor kind of says to me, did you not know he's type 1? Like I've done something wrong. And I said, firstly, type 1 what? What are you talking about? Type what? And she says, type 1 diabetes. And I said, well, I know what diabetes is. What's type 1 diabetes? She says, oh, it's the really crap one. It's the one where he'll have to inject now before he eats anything. And I thought, what? And my knees gave way, and I went into a massive meltdown because it was just not what I was expecting to hear. No. So I got to hand it to my husband. He was incredible. He had it. He sort of held it together and was just like, okay, we need to speak to a consultant. He didn't, I mean, she was, I think it's her manner was so abrupt, and getting such big news was not pleasant. Yes,
terrible.
So we had an older consultant who came over, and he was incredible. He just said to us, look, I will say one thing to you. This is a manageable condition. He says, yes, it's lifelong. Yes, it's an autoimmune disease. Yes, it's life-threatening. He said all those things. He says, but if you handle it properly, he said, in 6 months, you'll say to me, what was I so scared about? And I didn't believe him at the time, but, you know, we went with it. Cut forward to now, 5 days later, my son is, you know, saying to me, I want to go to school. It was difficult. He was having hypos. He would kick off against having a wheelchair brought onto the field because he loved playing rugby. Can you imagine the stress of that? Oh, God. But then one of the mums of the school, she's in publishing, and she said to me, and this was just as a friend, she just said, you know, why don't you just write about the experience, get it all out of you, and maybe that will help you. Because every time I spoke to one of my friends, I would burst into tears, like within minutes, because I didn't know how else to deal with this life-changing news. And it is life-changing. You don't sleep ever again because, you know, he can hypo in the middle of the night, which means he could go into a coma, which means his organs can shut down, which means he can die. So it is just a horrific condition that's relentless. Yes. And so I then got this job in South Africa. It was a job called Origin, so set in a spaceship, and it was this really cool thing. And I didn't want to leave my son. It had been a few months, but I didn't want to leave him. And my husband actually said, look, go. He said, if you go, you'll just have something else to think about. You won't worry about him so much. I'm here. You know, we'll figure it out. And it was a big, huge kind of like discussion. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll just go. It was a few months, I'll go. Went out to South Africa, and I was in this lovely apartment, just overlooking kind of the sea. And I thought, I took my little iPad out, and I thought, my friend said, write about your feelings, write about what's going on. And I started to write it, but it came out as a story about him. It didn't come out as this is my diary and these are my feelings. It came out as this little kid, boy called Maverick Masters. I don't know where that name came from, but this is what he was going through. And it just, within days, it just all poured out of me. And I sent it to my friend Sam, and she said, Nina, can I pass this to my friend who's in children's publishing? She says, I think we should get this out there, because there's no real books out there about, you know, type 1 and how it affects a family, how it affects your son.
No.
And she says, and you haven't written it in a really kind of hard, morbid way. You've written it in a slightly empowering way for kids to say, it's okay, you'll have a life. And next thing I know, the bionic T1D was born. And it was just like, she adjusted a bit of the language to make it more for Key Stage 2 readers. And then she said, we should roll this out across schools to educate everyone from the age of 6 and 7 as to what type 1 is. And that way, you know, his friends will understand and other children will understand, so that if other children are diagnosed with type 1, they won't feel any different. And
Wonderful.
That's what happened.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
So are you, have it made you want to write more books?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's certainly kind of, I mean, I did write with goodness gracious me, and I've always written sketches.
Yes.
I mean, at school, I was always writing sketches for my friends to perform in our reviews, you know, during A levels and O levels and all of that. So it's kind of reignited that. And so I've just been writing a bunch of little fun stuff, and, you know, even got a sitcom idea that, you know, but you know what it's like. I mean, that can go on for years and years and
Forever
years.
And ever.
Forever and ever. But if it happens, you're all getting in it.
Thank you. That's a job. Thank you.
You're such a creative person, darling. And the thing is, that has no bounds, because you've also produced, haven't you? You've produced a movie with your husband.
Yes.
Was that a completely different experience to acting and writing?
Horrific. I realized very early on, I am not a producer. He's calm, he's collected. I lose my temper within seconds and hate all actors when I'm working as a producer. So,
well, actually, no, that sounds like most producers, actually.
I've seen it from both sides. And so the first film I produced with him, the second film I introduced him actually to a friend of mine, an actor, Stephen Lord, you know, and Stephen wanted to produce. So I put him under my husband's wing, and I said, you two go and produce. I'll just do a small part in the film. It'd be much easier. And also I'll still have a marriage at the end of it. So
absolutely. So you do the writing, he does the producing.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. And
fantastic.
But that was an eye-opening experience for me to see, you know, a production, especially like a film, from another perspective, and realize actually it's hard for producers. You know, we give them a lot of stick as actors, but it is a tough thing to do, and, you know, keep everyone in line as well. So
producing a film is a massive thing. It's a massive thing, isn't it?
It is. It's a huge.
It's a multitasking.
It's the money, isn't it, Nina? You've got to keep the money coming in.
That's right.
Absolutely. And you know, when you've raised it yourself and you've worked hard to raise it, and it's your own money, that is a mistake I will never make again.
Absolutely.
It's tough
because
really,
it's
really
never
tough.
enough, is it? It's
No,
never
it isn't.
enough.
And it's funny because I just kind of come to the end of my time on EastEnders, and Shane Ritchie had just come in, and he'd said to me, oh God, don't produce a film, for goodness sake. He said, it'll ruin your life. You know, you'll lose all your money. And he'd had such a bad experience. I went into it knowing I was going to fail.
I don't think you failed at all. I think you've done brilliantly. You've had the most fantastic career as well. So how did the acting start? Where did this come from? Where did it start?
Oh, well, actually, it was dance. That was always my passion initially. So in India, I was put into a school called Vaijayanti Mala's Bharatnatyam school. So Bharatnatyam is an Indian.
Can you just say that again,
dance.
please? Because that sounds fantastic.
Okay, so Vaijayanti Mala was a beautiful, really, really popular Indian actress. and she was known for her dancing skills. And she set up a school, and they taught Bharatanatyam, which is Indian classical dance. And as a kid, my mum said I was constantly just really annoying her by, just trying to dance and just make noise, because they dance with bells on their feet. So she managed to get me into the dance school, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. Then age 9, my parents said, no, we're moving to Hong Kong. And I thought, oh no, I've got to leave my dance school.
Oh, no.
Went to Hong Kong, of course. Bharatanatyam is not so popular in Hong Kong. So I ended up doing tap, because I wanted some kind of dance that had noise attached to it. So I did tap, which I love, but it's the exact opposite to Bharatanatyam. It's all very light-footed, whereas Bharatanatyam's heavy-footed. And then towards the end of my A-levels there, I found myself sort of writing. I found a love for writing. I was writing sketches for my friends. And there was one review that I wrote that, my economics teacher, when I was doing A-levels, who said to me, gosh, he goes, this is brilliant. This is why you must never do economics. You're crap at it. Do be an actor. So one of the friends I've written sketches for was not well. So I performed for her. I was terrified, but I performed for her, and I got the biggest buzz I've ever had. So I said to my parents at the last minute, I'm not going to come back to England and read law. I said, I really want to be an actor. My mum was so mad at me, We spent so much on your education. You think we're going to do that so you can end up being an actor? She's like, no way, blah, blah. 3 months she didn't speak to me. 3 months.
You should have pointed out, Nina, that all lawyers are actors.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
And then she said, well, finally she came around, and my brother actually was the one who sort of helped me fill out applications for drama school. And I had a choice of actually going to New York or going to the UK, but I loved Shakespeare so much, it had to be the UK for me. And I roped off to so many drama schools. And then I ended up going to one in Wandsworth, because it was the only one we could afford. We didn't have much money. And, RADA was so expensive. I had to pay overseas school fees, which at that time was like $4,000 a term. And my parents were, we can't afford that. So I went to this little drama school that was opposite an old people's bowling green. So in the middle of doing these big Shakespearean scenes, you'd have, can I just use the toilet, please?
Showbiz, so glamorous.
So glamorous. And in the third term, the director of the theatre company ran off with all our money. And so we ended up at the drama school on our third term, and it was all boarded up, and the police were there. And we were like, what? And I thought, well, this has thrown me into the acting world in a very real way.
Yes.
And and then from then on, I just did what every actor did at that time, looked at the back of the stage newspaper, wrote off to everything. I even naively, I was so naive, I went to a Dancing Girls review in Soho.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Which one was that?
Well, it wasn't Raymond's review, but I was like,
no. Do you know once? Nina, I once rehearsed it there. I did a play, and we were rehearsing there. And on the stage was a massive, great penis, because it was part of the review. But we were rehearsing a very, very straight, I can't even remember what it was. And round this thing, it was sort of, you just think the bizarreness of our business.
Yes, it is. And I was so taken aback. And all my friends were like, you're such an idiot. You didn't read the ad properly. I'm going, but it was for dancing. And they're going, no, it's for stripping. Okay then.
So you didn't take the job?
Oh, no, I didn't. I was offered it, mind.
I bet.
Eastenders. Did you love Eastenders?
I loved Eastenders. I had a great time because I had a great family on there, and and I got to pick most of my family, to be honest, which was the nicest part. And we just laughed our way. I mean, I just had a baby. I had my son, and then I'd gone into this show and thought, okay, a little bit of regular income, and it's a nice part. I'm getting to do comedy in a show that's not really known for its comedy. Yeah. And it was great. But then coming up to the end of I went in for 6 months. I ended up staying for 6 years. it's the last couple of years I really struggled with, because I just don't think I'm one of those actors that can stay in one job for that long.
Right.
I like to create. And then when they said, oh, your husband's going to have another affair on the show, I thought, oh, you've run out of ideas for us now. So
That's always the telltale.
Yeah.
It is.
So I mean, the thing is that it's still open for you to come back if you so wished, if you ever wanted to.
They were very kind to me that way, because I actually wanted to be killed off, because you get a big storyline if you're killed off. And they were like, nah, we're not killing you off, because, you know, she's a popular character and we'd like to, you know, have you back at some point in the future. So that was very nice to them. In hindsight, I think that was very nice to them. But at the time, I was just, when you're in a job and you just go, look, I've loved it, but now it's not fun anymore. I want to go. I need to refresh myself, create something else. And before I knew it, the minute I came out, well, actually not the minute I came out, for 11 months I didn't work, because casting directors were saying to my agent, it's just Zainab Masood. We can't cast her in anything else. Everyone just knows her as Zainab. So I thought, I've killed my career dead now.
Yeah.
But then an old BBC producer, Gareth Edwards, who'd originally done Goodness Gracious Me on radio, he said, oh, look, they're reviving a show called Open All Hours and calling it Still Open All Hours. And there's a little part in it of this quite weird little creature called Mrs. Hussein, who lives up in Doncaster. And I need you to create something. And it was only one scene, and it was only for a Boxing Day special. So I made her quite kind of like gossipy and nosy and weird and quirky. And Roy Clark, the writer, loved her, and he wrote her into the series. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So.
Brilliant.
Amazing. You've had the most fantastic career. You are the most interesting person. It's so wonderful to talk to you this afternoon. You've inspired me in lots and lots of different areas. I'm thinking about lots and lots of different things since you've come on. So thank you for joining us. And will you come back and see us soon?
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you guys want. And like I said, I need to see all of you, because I'm writing a sitcom and you're all going to be in it.
We're available. We're available.
Thank you.
The next time
We love it.
You'll be able
Excellent.
on your hair.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Come back and see us
you,
soon.
darling.
Thank
Will
you,
do.
darling.
Thanks for
See
having
you
me.
See you
soon.
soon. Bye.
Bye. That was the perfect way to start the week.
Isn't
that
accurate,
wonderful?
She's
She's gorgeous.
fun,
Perfect way to
wonderful
start
person.
February, I think.
Yeah. She's got
And
so much.
yes, I think, yes, really, it's very nice, and it's really started me thinking about different things, lots and lots of
There you
different
go.
things.
There you
Yes,
go.
the brain is working. It's come back.
She is inspiring.
I'll
It's
get the
very
mates for you, darling.
lovely.
Don't worry, it'll be fine.
Thank you. Now on Wednesday we have the amazing Jan Ravens, the impressionist comedian.
Brilliant.
So it'd be lovely to see Jan. She's a very, very old friend, but I think, you know, having all these wonderful, inspiring women, it's just amazing, isn't it?
It
Yeah.
really is.
It's so
It
lovely
really
to
is.
be together and hear everyone chat and share things, the good and the bad, you know, it's just everything.
And you might have had your jab by then, Sherry. So
Yes.
we might notice the difference. You'll be able to tell us all about it. And if you haven't, you should
I
tell us
look
about it.
totally different. My hair will be a different colour.
Will you be, darling, will you be nice then?
Yes.
Don't, please.
I say yes.
Don't change the habit
There's
of a
not
life.
enough vaccine in the
change.
world to make that
No.
happen, I don't think.
No,
But loving
don't
you.
change that. Don't change the habit of a lifetime. That's all I can
No,
say.
I'd also
Anyway,
they might do
exactly.
my roots while I'm there. Do you think they'll do my roots if I say?
I thought you said your boobs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, my roots. Boring.
Both probably be good. Anyway, enough girls. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.